Good evening. The board is now reconvened to open session. The board would like to remind the public that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. It is also available via live stream for the public through the links found on the front page of the RUSD website. Trustee Hepp, will you please report out action taken in closed session?
Yes, thank you. So in closed session, the board voted to approve the appointment of Carrie Awe for the position of Program Specialist 2, Curriculum Instruction and Professional Learning. The vote was unanimous. Also in closed session, the board voted to release one classified employee from their position pursuant to Education Code 45113. The vote was unanimous. Also in closed session, the board voted to approve the appointment of Bonnie Robbins for the position of Assistant Principal, Rocklin High School. The vote was unanimous.
Thank you. Tonight we have Kylie Johnson from Victory High School as our student board representative. Kylie, will you please introduce the color guard and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Rocklin Unified School District's Junior ROTC Color Guard and the Pledge of Allegiance. The commander and U.S. flag bearer for this evening's color guard is Cadet Captain Titan Owens. State flag is carried by Cadet Captain Sophia Burkhalter. Right guard is Captain Jade Plakinski. Left guard is Cadet Captain Madison Baker. The alternates for tonight are for Cadet First Lieutenant Christopher Renner, Cadet Colonel Clayton Hove, Cadet Major Kevin Laguna.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order. Forward. March. Thank you so much, Color Guard, for the respectful way you handle our flag and our ceremony. We're so grateful for you. We'll now move to item 5.1, special recognition and presentations portion of the meeting. Chief Dosage, will you please introduce our family partners in education recognition tonight?
Good evening, President Price, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. The Family Partners in Education program allows the Rocklin Unified School District to recognize family engagement and involvement to help our students achieve excellence during the school year. Springview Middle School Principal Danielle Lauer is introducing the Colmar family for tonight's Family Partners in Education recognition.
Good evening, Superintendent Stock, President Sathoff, and members of the board. Tonight, it's my absolute honor and privilege to recognize an incredibly dedicated, generous, and selfless member of our Springview community, Mrs. Rosalind Colmar. Rosalind embodies what it means to be all in. She is 110% invested in everything Springview, always ready to roll up her sleeves and jump in, all with the goal of improving our campus and enriching the experiences of our students. As we all know, middle school can be a time when many parents begin to step back from campus involvement, but not Rosalind. She leaned in. She chose to stay engaged, and we are beyond grateful she did. As a vital member of our rejuvenated PTC, Rosalind brings creativity and energy to everything she touches. She took the lead in designing brand new Springview spirit wear and stickers, always with our students in mind, constantly thinking of fun and fresh swag that they'll love. But her contributions don't stop there. Rosalind is the first to volunteer when it's time to support our amazing staff. From organizing potlucks and popcorn bars to setting up coffee carts and other thoughtful surprises, she makes sure our teachers and team members feel seen, valued, and appreciated. And let's talk about her homemade cupcakes and cookies. If you've ever attended one of our student-centered high flyer events, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Rosalind's sweet treats are legendary, baked with love, devoured with joy, and no one leaves a crumb behind. And somehow, in the little free time she has, she still finds a way to craft stunning promotion and graduation leis, beautiful symbols of celebration that carry her signature touch. More than anything, Rosalind brings warmth, kindness, and positivity wherever she goes. When she visits the office with her infectious smile, she's always serving behind the scenes. Her presence makes Springview a better place. Thank you for your time, your talent, your heart, and your unwavering dedication to our students and staff. We're so lucky to have you a part of our community. Let's give a big round of applause to the one and only Mrs. Rosalind Colmar.
Thank you, thank you. So I did not realize this until you said it, so we're all looking for treats. I'm just gonna tell you right now. Amazing, thank you, my family. Thank you very much. Thank you for your dedication, your contribution, for always helping out, for always being there. I know this is all part of it, right? So we'll thank the family. I think, here, you get to handle those, right? All right, good job, baby. So thank you very much. Thank you for always being a part of it. Springview welcomes you, loves you, and we just hope that you continue that on whatever high school they're going to. Hopefully at Whitney. So there we go. Thank you very much.
Chief Josiah, will you please introduce our employee recognition tonight?
President Price, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. Tonight for our employee recognition, Antelope Creek Elementary Principal Brian O'Curry will join us in introducing Sally Van Wagner.
Good evening, President Price, trustees, Superintendent Stock, cabinet over here. I am so honored to talk about Sally Van Wagner tonight. I'm going to try not to cry. So I told her, I was like, don't look back. Yeah. But Sally, first of all, there's three things I want to talk about. Number one, longevity and commitment. Over 35 years of service to Rocklin Unified. And she is one of the original pioneers of this district. And so to think about the students and the lives she's touched, it's really extraordinary. Also, if I could, her commitment to literacy. I've always admired it. Always wants to help with reading and writing, two key components. And she's always dedicated herself to learning about it and has always been committed to that being a big part of her instruction. And then finally, speaking again of a commitment as a lifelong learner, we're launching this thing, if you haven't heard, at Antelope Creek called Spark the Arts. And who was one of the first people to jump on board and lead us? That would be Sally Van Wagner. And how easy would it have been to say, hey, I'm retiring in a year or two. I don't need to do that. I don't need to learn like that or give like that. And here she goes. She was one of the first people to step up and lead us. And I've told her she's going to come back and consult. So even though she's retiring, she's coming back. And we had T-shirts made today. She got a T-shirt. She was like, should I take a T-shirt? I'm like, yeah, you take a T-shirt because you're coming back. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, what an educator, a professional through and through. And she's here with her family. She's got 4 grandchildren, 2 already and 2 on the way. So she's going to spend a lot of great time with them. Harper's here tonight. So, everybody, Sally Van Wagner.
Sally, I had the awesome opportunity of touring your classroom a couple of months ago and seeing your artwork and some projects that you were doing with your kids. And I will say everything he just said, he said to me that day that I stepped on campus. So I know everything he said is so genuine. And your Martin Luther King project was inspiring, and your classroom was inspiring. I'm so impressed with the years that you've put into our district and the excitement that you still bring to the classroom. Those teachers at Antelope Creek are so lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you.
Okay, next I invite Bill McDonald, Associate Superintendent of Elementary Education, to present Rucola Elementary, a California Distinguished School for 2025.
Good evening, President Price, Trustee, Superintendent Stock. Did you know there are 5,856 elementary schools in the state of California? In 2025, only 336 of them, just over 5%, were recognized as California Distinguished Schools. Schools that lead the way in closing the achievement gap, student performance, and positive school climate. This is an amazing honor that recognizes the incredible skill and tireless effort of the entire school community, students, teachers, principals, and administration. Tonight, I am thrilled to introduce Board President Price to recognize and honor Rocklin's very own California Distinguished School, Rucola Elementary.
You guys, this is amazing. And I have the big flag under my arm, so we'll take a really fun picture, and then I imagine you've got a great spot to hang it. So just really so proud of you. I think Superintendent Stock told me they were only one of 2 in the county. And so as a board, we just want to recognize all of your efforts. I know our families and students so appreciate each of you individually in your classroom working with families and students to make Rucola so amazing and so great. And I want to shout out the highest in the state in English language arts and mathematics. And as Dr. McDonald mentioned, strong outcomes in student engagement and school climate. You guys are amazing, and we are so grateful for all of your efforts, and we're so proud to have you as part of our district. Thank you. I'll turn on my mic here. Tony Limoges, Associate Superintendent of Human Resources, please join us to present the Assistant Director of Special Education and Support Programs.
Thank you, President Price. Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Stock, Ms. Georgia. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing our new Assistant Director of Special Education and Support Programs, Ms. Teresa Prestige. Come on down. Business. Sorry about that. I said I walked right by her when we walked in and sat down, took my stuff. Anyways, Teresa, that's what we're here to talk about. Has over 30 years of experience in education, 9 years in school administration. She is currently serving as a speech-language pathologist and department head and special day class teacher for the Placer County Office of Education. She previously served as executive director of special education for PCOE from 2017 to 2020 and was principal at iLearn Academy Charter and Sierra Vista Schools. Earlier, she comes to the position with a wealth of experience, also was AXA Administrator of the Year in 2015, so we're bringing in champs. So I'd like to introduce you, Teresa Prestige.
Thank you so much. It's nice to meet all of you. This is new, this whole being presented to a board, and I've been with the county for 20-some plus years, so this change is going to be big for me, but I'm very excited to work alongside such an amazing team. I've had the privilege of actually working on many of Rocklin's school sites. Valley View, I was a teacher at Antelope Creek and Parker Whitney, not under Rocklin's umbrella, under PCOE, but I have really enjoyed all my time at Rocklin. I look forward to the future, and I'm kind of around for the long haul as far as when I think of 25 years at PCOE. You guys might be stuck with me for a while, I hope. But I'm very much looking forward to this upcoming year. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. We are so excited to have you and welcome, and we're here if you need anything. We're just grateful to have you, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Is that it?
Yearbook photo.
Totally. How do you hold the flowers? All right. So many great things tonight. Yeah. Thank you for coming. You are welcome to stay. You are also welcome to go. So now is a great time if you'd like to go and be with your families. We just appreciate you being here tonight.
Cookies, good job.
Okay, we don't have any reports tonight on item 6.1 or 6.2 from RTPA or CSEA, so we will move to comments and the report from our student board representative. Kylie, will you please share your report?
Yes. In Bulldog Country over at Rocklin Elementary, we're celebrating our teachers this week by showing our appreciation. Thank you to our PTC for organizing. We also had another successful parent night out last Friday. Thank you to all who attended and made the event a success. As we round up the year, we're offering the following clubs: Pickleball, Polynesian Dance, Kindness Club, and Golden Bulldog Club. Over at Breen in kindergarten, we're growing plants, catching caterpillars, making their chrysalis, and going to the zoo. In the independent living skills class, we are learning about ways the earth changes. We will learn about volcanoes, earthquakes, and more. We will get to do a fun volcano science experiment. We're also looking forward to our cooking lessons and this month we are making graham cracker mountains and dirt cups. Our third graders are ready to begin state testing this week. We got a big boost this morning when our kindergarten buddies brought us notes of encouragement and gave us high fives. We can do this. Brain teachers are overwhelmed by the amazing PTC who decorated our doors and staff room and have a daily plan for honoring us and showing our thanks. Our teachers are so grateful to have such wonderful families who do so much to show their love and appreciation to us. Our third graders had our tryouts last week and are busy learning the songs and dances for our Goin' Buggy show, which takes place at the end of the month. Amazing things happen at Breen every day. Parker Whitney Elementary, we're excited to see and share the energy and progress of our spring season. Our track team finished its season with personal growth stories and lots of smiles. And for the first time, we're proud to host Girls on the Run team, promoting both physical activity and teamwork. Their hard work will culminate in a special team event in a few weeks in Sacramento. A big thank you to Emily Boswell, one of our dedicated parents and PTC board members, for once again organizing our talent show. A great opportunity for students to shine and share their unique gifts. We have some very talented students at PW. Our spring book fair was also a success, and we're thrilled to see students diving into new books. A special shout out to our PTC for making Root Beer Float Night a fun and memorable part of the event. This season also brings enriching educational experiences, including hands-on field trips connecting to the curriculum, like the American Revolution in-house experience and the third grade's visit to the Barnard Museum. We're also so proud of our students and grateful for the support of our families. Thank you for helping us create such a vibrant, well-rounded learning experience. Sunset Ranch teachers and staff were spoiled this past week by our amazing PTC during Teacher Appreciation Week. We truly have the best out there. Our school's gearing up for our CASP testing and for lots of year events. Sixth grade celebration, mini Olympics, yearbook signing parties, several field trips, and our annual school-wide PBIS positive drawing. Our Coyotes have been saving up their Goldens to turn them in for a chance to win one of many prizes, so this is a highlight each year. At Quarry Trail, students and families celebrate Del Nino at the Fiesta de los Niños on Friday, May 2nd. This special celebration included traditional Spanish dancers at Whitney High School and Rocklin High School's drumline. In addition, Mr. Carlos, our lead custodian, was selected as a top 10 finalist with Cintas, and he was honored for his outstanding hard work and dedication to students, families, and staff at Quarry Trail. Over at Valley View, more than ever, we're grateful for the amazing teachers and staff. Together with our PTC, we are showering them with treats. We're all busy testing for a couple of weeks and preparing for the upcoming music performances. We do want to recognize a fourth grade student, Finley Phelps, who received the Rocklin Youth Community Service Award last week. She has been helped with multiple Rocklin USD schools to obtain buddy benches so every child feels included. We're also looking forward to showcasing our classes in a couple of weeks at Open House. Rock Creek is honored to spend the week celebrating the amazing work of our Red Hawk staff. We're grateful for our incredible PTC for organizing a week of fun. Our 3rd through 6th graders have been engaged in state testing and are thrilled about getting to celebrate their possum growth on MAP. Congratulations to our 4th and 6th graders for making the most growth from winter to spring. Our students' hard work is showing. Antelope Creek Leadership students partnered with Whitney High School students to raise over $700 for blood cancer research and treatments. Students collected change and worked tirelessly to help with this important cause. Students will also be working on future fundraising and spirit projects with the Whitney High School students next year as well. Teachers at Antelope Creek continued last month and this week with their adopted curriculum. Teachers worked in grade levels and teams with a unit template and weaved the visual and performing arts into these lessons. The standards of artistic literacy and the artistic processes from the California Arts Standard docs were also brought in as foundational planning pieces for the units. Antelope Creek continues to spark the arts for all learning partners. At Twin Oaks, in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week this week, our PTC is showing our teachers just how much they are loved with daily treats and fun. 3rd through 6th graders, Timberwolves, began CAP testing and are excited to show what they've learned. 2nd graders visited Woodweek Nature Center, while TK and 1st graders will enjoy a show at the Roseville Theater on Thursday. 3rd graders will travel back in time on Thursday with a trip to the Barnhard Museum to learn about pioneer life. We also held our spring book fair, and students love to pick out new books. Looking ahead, we can't wait for our spring festival next Friday evening. Fun for the whole Timberwolf pack. Whitney High School had Multicultural Week, which included lunchtime activities hosted by our student clubs, Black Student Union, Latinos, and Asian Youth Leadership Association. The week wrapped up with a festival in the amphitheater. We saw some of our fabulous performances and tasted some delicious cuisine from around the world. Our boys lacrosse won the section title for the first time in school history. Senior Annika Hubbard has been awarded the Navy Reserve Officers Training Corps Scholarship, which provides up to $200,000 financial assistance for her college education. This is an outstanding achievement and will allow her to pursue a commission as an officer in the United States Navy. We're also incredibly proud of her dedication and ambition. Whitney High School is proud to celebrate 19 student athletes who have committed to continuing their academic and athletic careers at a 4-year college next year. Their hard work and perseverance have truly paid off, and we're excited to see their futures. They also have an upcoming band concert on May 20th and a choir orchestra concert on May 21st. And finally, last month, Victory High School's Interact Coordinator, Jen Gamble, and ASB Coordinator, Jana Kingery, led their respective club members in support of the Run Rocklin 7-mile water station. If you participated in the event, then you know just how refreshing it was to see their water station. Additionally, as one of the 3 hometown heroes selected by Chick-fil-A, a recognition for the support we provide our students at Victory High School and for volunteer efforts throughout the Rocklin community. Last Tuesday, ASB presented the monthly Chick-fil-A Tuesday, where every student received a free sandwich, chips, and treats. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good job. That's a lot of information to get through. And so awesome that Victory students get Chick-fil-A. That makes for happy students and teenagers. That's great. That's awesome. Okay, colleagues, any board comments you'd like to share?
Thank you, Kylie. That was such an awesome job. That was so much to do. And I just wanted to make a comment that all of those things are all happening as we speak. And on top of that, you did mention state testing, but on top of that, everybody's deep into state testing. And this is the time for all the big field trips. So everybody's out either preparing for or on those big field trips. Open houses, everybody's preparing for open house right now. And graduations, everybody's working really hard to make sure they qualify and to prepare the graduation for those that do qualify. And it's Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. So the schools are hopping. And I wanted to give a shout out to the PTCs because this is a week where they really shine and they really work hard to show appreciation and to get the parents involved in showing appreciation for our teachers and staff. So I really want them to know how much we appreciate them as well. There should be a PTC Appreciation Week, I think. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, Kylie.
Great. Well, Kylie, I always love hearing the report and all of the exciting things happening on all of our campuses. So thank you for giving us that. Just a few things colleagues wanted to update on. I don't believe we've talked about the city 2x2 since we last had it. So just wanted to update Trustee Hupp, I was going down the list. Trustee Hupp and myself sat on the City 2x2, which is where two of us meet with two city council members and then our superintendent and then our city manager. But I think it's a really valuable time to talk about, how do we support each other's work? How do we maybe bring to attention possible concerns? And so I just felt like it was really good conversation. And I think we had scheduled for an hour and we went well over, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. And I just thought it was great. We talked a lot about shared use spaces, heading into summer months and hot weather months, really kind of looking back at, what's a need and a benefit to the school district and a need and a benefit to the city. And I felt like those were very fruitful conversations. And we also talked about the bridge. I know there was a request that we discuss potential bridge. And I just want to say how appreciative I am of the city for really working with us as they do projects that meet their needs. We were able to share a little bit of just our excitement for a bridge that not only would meet their need to connect walking trails and transportation paths to Johnson Springview Park, but also some of the benefit to some of our cross-country students and our Springview students. And so I just felt like that was a beautiful thing to highlight, that collaboration and that work. And so just really appreciative of our Rocklin City Council and also for Trustee Hupp for joining me in that. Additionally, wanted to highlight, we also had our facilities committee meeting that I sit on with President Price. And I felt like that was a really beneficial conversation of just, again, evaluating now that we have revisited and relooked at our facilities master plan, what can we do? How can we meet those needs as soon as possible? And really recognizing we know that there are needs out in our district. We know that statewide our campuses are beautiful, but that does not mean we don't have needs that maybe sometimes aren't seen when you drive by a campus, right? And so I felt like it was a really good deep dive into options of how we can try to make sure those needs are addressed in timely ways. And so I just really appreciated that conversation. And then also our study session that we just had right before this. I know there were many, many people that I'm sure flooded here to watch the study session, but I felt like it was just a great opportunity for the board to prioritize or start some conversations about allocating some potential allocations of funds to facilities needs for our campuses district-wide, knowing that every campus might have a different need. And I believe we're bringing that back. Is that May 28th? Is that correct, Superintendent Stock? Perfect. I just wanted to confirm for anybody listening in, so you didn't miss anything other than us really looking through how could we really find a fair way to make sure campuses have dollars allocated to them. And so I look forward to more conversation on the 28th. But just a couple other quick things on the calendar. I know lots of events in May. I'm looking forward to our annual employee recognition on May 14th. I think that's always a highlight for us as a board to recognize the incredible work of our employees and staff. And then May 22nd, the elementary school open houses. Even though I do not have a student in the class that has chickens, it's always one of my favorites at Twin Oaks to go by and see the little chicks. And so I won't be disappointed if they're not there this year, but it is a highlight I like to look to. But really it is fun to go around and see all the great work and the projects that students have done and the additional work that I know our staff are doing in preparation for that. And so with that, just wanted to say a shout out, happy Teacher Appreciation and just appreciation for all of the extra work that I know our teachers and staff are doing. And I know Bettina Hart was able to highlight for us that we have many year-round staff that were here while many of our students were off vacationing with their families over spring break. We had many year-round staff that were here finishing up projects and working on our campuses so students could come back. And so I just wanted to do an additional shout out to them as well for working extra hard that week while many people were off vacationing.
I just have a couple things. I will definitely echo the sentiment of happy Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. I hope that you all feel appreciated every day of the year, but I know it makes me very reflective on, these wonderful people who spend day in and day out with my kids, and I hope that you're all getting showered with lots of gifts and love this week. I wanted to mention that the City of Rocklin Rucola Community Service Awards recently happened, and we were able to recommend and get approved by the City Council to, among other excellent volunteers, 2 of our Rocklin Unified students, one being Maddie McCrite from Rocklin High and the other Finley Phelps from Valley View. And it was just wonderful hearing everything that they're doing. Just the amount of motivation to do good in the community is so extraordinary, and I feel very proud that we have them here in Rocklin. Also, just wanted to mention, I know, we all just are so, excited about the CTE opportunities that we have here in the district, and we did get a little kind of note from two of our CTE teachers at Rocklin High, Ms. Parado and Ms. Harder, just to kind of let us know, let the whole school community know that we have many excellent elementary school teachers who have been mentors to our CTE education pathway students. I didn't really know a lot about it until this year. I've learned more about it, and just a wonderful opportunity for our students to get hands-on experience. They go in, they get to work with that teacher, learn from the teacher, work with the kids, and just so valuable for those students to have these elementary school teachers that are willing to put in that extra work and extra care to help them learn. So I wanted to mention that. And then we also last week had the third LCAP meeting. I came to that. It was a small but mighty group of parents that hung around for the third LCAP meeting. And it was great because the LCAP really, we're going to look at it really well formed at this point, and all of the parents who were here were able to kind of delve into each of the three goals in depth, ask questions, give input, but really at this point it was exciting to just hear a lot of positive comments in relation to kind of what has been laid out and what Hannah Anderson was able to present to everyone. So that's all I have.
Man, so it was, I think, all said. So first off, thank you. I think that was, 5 pages of notes? Oh, 4. I just kept walking through, so that great. Thank you for that. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Great to hear about all the events, all the celebrations. Again, a great thing. I will do my shout out to the Whitney lacrosse team for getting a district championship. That was very nice. So one more banner to hang in the gym. So I love it when we do that in both schools. Real quick, I have I guess we'll do the REEF update. So myself and Chief Dosanjh, working through the board development budget, scholarships. It's great. I will say we have a final date for the Starlight Soiree, October 16th. So put that in your calendars, and love to see everyone there. And then Sierra Elementary, their IB event's coming up. It's May 29th. Principal Westberg and bitter great Brett Hunter have a surprise for everyone. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there, and we'll see how everything's working out at Sierra and their IB program. So, Presidente.
Okay. I think almost everything has been said. I just wanted to add that Trustee Sadoff and I sit on the Facilities Committee, as she mentioned, but also I just wanted to add that we will be having a report on that on May 28th as well. So we're anxious to update the board on what we've been learning, and that will be really exciting. As a child of a teacher, sorry, I'm struggling with my words right now, I have seen firsthand the amount of hours and hours and hours teachers put in. I'm just so grateful that we have so many amazing teachers here in Rocklin Unified, and staff and administration. In addition, this week we had School Lunch Hero Day. So thank you to our nutritional services as well. So lots to celebrate and be grateful for. Superintendent Stock, do you have any comments you'd like to share?
Absolutely. As the husband and a father of a teacher, I have to say Happy Appreciation Teacher Week, and we are so grateful, as everyone has shared, for their dedication to our students. As you've heard, extremely busy time, and we do appreciate if you need something to do on an evening. There's a concert, there's an event, there's an award being given out, and so what a wonderful celebration of everything going on. We'll also be having our elementary mega concerts this month in May. It's the 2nd annual, and we get nearly 1,000 people each one of these, and it's just amazing to see the arts move through our community, and we appreciate all the work that it's taken to do that. Also, I'll just share that, again, if you weren't aware, that we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, available for enrollment in our fine schools through our website, and we encourage you to enroll now, or if you know someone, to let them know to hold your spot. So again, we just are excited to close out this year and are looking forward to a great year next year.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move to item 8.1, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are to be considered routine and will be enacted by one motion followed by a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the Board of Trustees or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Any items removed will be voted upon following the motion to approve the consent calendar. Do any trustees wish to remove an item from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
First by Trustee Hupp,
Second.
second by Trustee Counter. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, our action items tonight are fun, so we're so excited that we have Tony to go through all of these with us. Item 9.1 is what we'll start with. Would you please present Resolution 242518, the final resolution to reduce or eliminate particular services pursuant to Education Code 44955?
Thank you, President Price. And truth be told, knowing this was going to be an empty room, I came to Superintendent Stock and said, hey, what's the way I get the most FaceTime on YouTube? And he said, well, let's just put all 6 of these together. So you're going to get to hang with me for a minute. So item 9.1, if you recall, March, we presented the preliminary layoff notices, which is the first notices that go out to employees before the March 15th statutory deadline. Tonight, I'm presenting to you what we call the final notices that go, the statutory deadline is May 15th. And as I shared originally, these are really based on right-sizing and or reductions in or loss of one-time money. If you will notice, you probably don't have your March documents with you, but actually the total FTE has gotten smaller since the original preliminary notices. So the first item I'm presenting, 9.1, is for certificated staff. So I am asking the board to recommend a motion to take action on Resolution 242518, final resolution to reduce or eliminate particular services pursuant to Education Code 4495.
Are there any board comments or questions? Seeing none and no public comment, is there a motion to approve Resolution number 242518, the final resolution to reduce or eliminate particular services pursuant to Ed Code 44955?
So moved.
First by Trustee Hupp,
Second.
second by Trustee Sutherland. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, Tony, can you please continue with Resolution 242519, final resolution to reduce or eliminate classified school services for the 25-26 school year?
Thank you. This one is very similar to the previous one, other than this one is for our classified employees. So likewise, same statutory deadline, which has changed, I think, in about the last 3 years for classified service members. We presented the preliminaries in March. This is the final notice that we are issuing to you. Again, these reductions were not based on cuts. They were based on what we annually right-size our schools based on the number of students we are projecting enrolled and or one-time funding that may not be continuing. So I am recommending a motion to take action on resolutions 242519, final resolution to reduce or eliminate classified school services for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you. Are there any board comments or questions? Okay, and seeing no public comment as well, is there a motion to approve resolution number 242519, final resolution to reduce or eliminate classified school services for the 25-26 school year?
So moved.
First by Trustee Counter,
Second.
second by Trustee Sadoff. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Next, Tony, would you please continue with the 25-26 initial joint contract proposal from the RTPA for 25-26 and hold a public hearing?
Thank you. Item 9.3 is another piece outlined in Education Code, which requires districts take to the board the preliminary notifications for bargaining. We refer to this as the sunshining process. So what I'm presenting here for 9.3 and 9.4, 9.3 right now is I am presenting RTPA's work on their sunshine proposal and what they wish to negotiate and bring to negotiations for the 25-26 school year. Once we have, I've presented this and we have the public hearing, which is also a statutory requirement, we will be able to commence, once we've done both sides, commence negotiations for the 25-26 school year. Both the attachments are in there for RTPA's and the district sunshine proposal for you to review if you have any questions. Otherwise, I recommend opening the floor for public hearing. Once that occurs, then I'll present the last recommendation.
Are there any board comments or questions? I now open the public hearing for the 2025-26 initial joint contract proposal from the Rocklin Teachers Professional Association for 2025-26. I now close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the 25-26 initial joint contract proposal from the RTPA for 2025-26?
So moved.
First by Trustee Sutherland.
Second.
Second by Trustee Hepp. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Next, we have the 2025-26 initial contract proposal from the Rocklin Unified School District for 2025-26 and to hold a public hearing.
So what I'm presenting here on item 9.4 is the other side of the coin, which is the district's proposal for negotiations that must be brought to public hearing. The document is attached. We have presented, I believe it's stated, I apologize, 3 articles that we are interested in. Always wages and benefits is one of the pieces we have. So I am recommending that we hold a public hearing and then move forward with the recommended action.
Are there any board comments or questions? I now open the public hearing for the 2025-26 initial contract proposal from the Rocklin Unified School District for 2025-26. Okay, I am now closing the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 initial contract proposal from RUSD?
So moved.
First by Trustee Sadoff.
Second?
Second by Trustee Sutherland. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, item 9.5. Tony, would you please continue with the 2025-26 initial contract proposal from California School Employees Association, Chapter 773, and hold a public hearing?
So in Rocklin Unified, we have 5 labor unit groups that we negotiate with. The first you have approved, which is RTPA, which represents our teachers. Secondly is CSEA, which represents a majority of our classified service members. Both of those groups are recognized labor unions and that we directly negotiate with them. The following 3, which is RAPA, which are consult and confer group, which makes up our administrators. The other group is the confidential, which is primarily district office classified employees. And finally, our those 2 are both consult confers. And finally, the non-represented groups. No, I'm good. I'll make this last. Excuse me. The non-represented group, which is basically I refer to as a memo, and they align more closely with the classified unit. So what I'm presenting here for you this evening is CSEA Chapter 773's version of the Sunshine Group. We have the attached document in their proposal. I'd like to recommend to have a public hearing, and if approved, move forward with the recommended action.
Thank you. Are there any board comments or questions? Okay, I now open the public hearing for the 2025-26 initial contract proposal from California School Employees Association, Chapter 773. I now close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 initial contract proposal from California School Employees Association, Chapter 773?
So moved.
First by Trustee Sutherland,
Second.
second by Trustee Counter. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Now the Rocklin Unified School District 2025-26 initial contract proposal to California School Employees Association, Chapter 773, and hold a public hearing.
And just like presented with RTPA, item 9.6 is the district's version of their sunshine proposal that we provide to CSEA, signifying what our interest levels, and just for the general knowledge of the board and for the public, primarily the district, what it does, it works with its administrative team and cabinet to solicit areas we feel are of need, as do the representing labor unions survey their members to determine what areas we select to grow upon, to negotiate. So what I'd recommend is that we hold a public hearing, if accepted, recommend the action, and then your approval would signify we can commence negotiations for the 25-26 school year.
Are there any board comments or questions? I now open the public hearing for the Rocklin Unified School District's 2025-26 initial contract proposal to California School Employees Association, Chapter number 773. I now close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the Rocklin Unified School District's 2025-26 initial contract proposal to California School Employees Association, Chapter number 773?
So moved.
First by Trustee Hupp,
Second.
second by Trustee Sadoff. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 10.1, we will welcome Hannah Anderson, our Director of Innovation and School Programs, to give us an update on the Local Control and Accountability Plan. Welcome.
Good evening, President Price, trustees, Superintendent Stock. I am here tonight to share with you an update in the development and revision of our local control accountability plan for the 25-26 school year. During the presentation this evening, I'll share an overview of the development process, give you information from our draft, including proposed goals, metrics, actions, and services, as well as expenditures, and share next steps. As shared with you in April, we do not anticipate any changes to goal areas. So we're looking at Goal 1, continuing to focus on math improvement. Goal 2, sustaining our focus on social, emotional, mental health, and behavioral supports. And Goal 3, continuing to maintain and monitor programs while enhancing programs in early literacy, attendance, and serving the unique learning needs of all students. Specifically, we're looking at our English learner students and our students with disabilities in that last section there. Over the course of this school year, we've had the opportunity to meet with various educational partners, including sharing progress updates with our trustees, our staff, parents, and students via survey. Student forums and panels have taken place over the course of this school year. Our professional development committee will actually be meeting this month. We'll receive additional feedback from them. Our advisory committees, both our staff and parent advisory committees and our district leadership team, as well as an extended cabinet group, have given input on this plan and revision areas needed, as well as other district advisory committees representing students that are specifically focused on within our local control accountability plan, including our English learner students, our foster youth students, our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and our students experiencing homelessness. An example of that would be an advisory committee like our Homeless and Foster Youth Advisory Committee, who meets a few times a year and provides specific updates and ideas related to that student group. And then just today conducted our consultation with our local SELPA to provide their input on our plan. Our overarching themes this year remain the same as they were in the development of this plan. They include math achievement and growth, social, emotional, behavioral supports, continuing our focus in these areas and making sure sometimes it can feel like new needs come towards us, and we want to make sure that we maintain our focus on these couple of goal areas. This can be tricky, and I want to appreciate and validate the sustained efforts made to keep us focused in math achievement and improvement and social, emotional, and behavioral supports. We also want to make sure there's cohesion between district level work that is represented in the LCAP that is also the same as what schools are focusing on in their school plans for student achievement. So cohesion theme there means that the work that's happening on our school campuses, the work they're doing to make improvements, is in alignment with our district's LCAP, and then communicating that both to our staff and our parent community at large. And the last theme that remains the same, that is related to student connectedness and school culture, and that theme has been resoundingly based on input from our students and staff. Highlighted changes we're looking to implement in the 25-26 school year include increasing options for tutoring, specifically for unduplicated students, but also for any student that a staff member identifies as needing additional support, as long as resources are available. Increasing opportunities for professional development to focus with focused strategies for English learner students and students with disabilities, and reviewing our alignment of our elementary math common assessments with grade level reporting periods. Our staff have shared with us that they want to see more alignment in when assessments are given and when those reporting periods exist, so that they don't need to double assess students, one for the purpose of informing instruction and then for the purpose of informing parents, if we can do work together with our staff on identifying how can we use some similar assessments at a time that would be mutually beneficial to both of those needs. Goal 1 will have ongoing metrics, the same as have been utilized in actually over the course of the last 5 years to measure this goal area. In Goal 2, highlighted changes that we are looking at are to explore a classroom-based intervention this would be a pilot program to strengthen our classroom-based implementation of PBIS, specifically supporting teachers when they have a student or a few students that have a high behavioral need, with short-term increased staff pushing into that classroom, supporting the teacher to both staff a behavior intervention plan for an individual student or group of students, while also making sure the teacher has the tools that they need to continue implementing PBIS classroom practices. We also are looking to increase opportunities for professional development for our early education professionals, so our TK teachers, as they welcome in our youngest students here into public education in the traditional elementary campuses to support student social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And lastly, a highlighted change here would be to continue to review, monitor, and increase the number of substance abuse prevention and abuse resources and interventions available on our secondary campuses. This was also a goal for this year. This is something that wasn't implemented at high levels in a new way, and so it's something we're continuing to explore because we continue to see a need in our data that calls for well, the majority of reason for suspension in Rocklin Unified is one of two areas. One, it might be related to physical aggression on campus. The second is related to substance-related reasons. And so to continue to try to dive into this and continue to look at prevention opportunities, but also have interventions available for students.
I don't remember do you care if I ask a question right now? I don't remember the specific program that we were talking about earlier about, is it Expect Respect?
Yes.
Is that part of this?
The Expect Respect work is within that goal too as well.
Okay.
This would be more looking at what are some individual, maybe small group or one-on-one interventions that can be delivered with parent permission, but through partnering with a third-party agency.
Okay, thank you.
That was actually one of my questions as well. What third-party agency are we looking at partnering with, and what is the program?
So there's a couple of interventions that we're exploring, and one of the pieces of increasing these interventions would be to bring back more information to trustees about what are these interventions. One of them would be a Renew program. It's a one-on-one intervention that takes place on secondary campuses, again, with parent permission. That is offered through our partnership with Placer County Office of Education. They do have facilitators for that Renew intervention. We could also look at having staff within Rocklin Unified be trained to deliver that intervention as well, if that's a place we want to invest resources. In the past, we have also worked with other third-party agencies in Placer County, including Granite Wellness and also Wellness Together, to provide just other counseling opportunities for students, mental health service opportunities for students who have substance abuse challenges. This also includes some of the prevention work related to the communication around One Pill Can Kill, all of those prevention opportunities and parent engagement also are part of the substance abuse prevention in secondary campuses talked about in this action.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the pilot program is specifically more secondary. We're not looking at like an elementary pilot?
The substance abuse work is specifically secondary.
The first point, the classroom-based intervention pilot program to strengthen PBIS.
That one is primarily elementary facing.
Okay. I'll look for it. Maybe I'll do a follow-up with you. I was just wondering if there was a specific pilot that's going to happen in elementary, like a third party or a specific pilot program.
Let me clarify. So in our elementary schools, this would be through Rocklin Unified staff working within our special education department, utilizing behavior support assistants that work with our behavior analysts to support students with high-need behaviors in our classrooms. And so the pilot program is looking to work with teachers directly to be able to grow our skill set as educators to support the students with these high behavioral needs inside of our classrooms. That is not a third-party agency.
Perfect, great. So in-house, our own people, great, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for clarifying. The metrics within Goal 2, we are looking to continue measuring progress on the same measures that we've utilized not only in this year's LCAP, but also the prior 3-year LCAP, because we anticipate that growth in the social, emotional, behavioral arena takes many years to track and show growth, and so we want to track over the same metrics for many years to be able to show that effectiveness and growth. Related to Goal 3, as you know, this is everything that makes Rocklin Unified great is included in Goal 3. So just to provide a highlight, we have been engaging in attendance improvement work over the last couple of years. To highlight our progress on this action for you this evening, we'll have a continuation next year of our TK through 12 attendance campaign with increased communication to families about the importance of attendance. That increased communication has happened last year and this year. We'll continue to look for new and innovative ways to fill gaps related to attendance communication. We'll also have site data teams focusing on reducing chronic absenteeism, continuing using attendance data, continue attendance interventions at all of our school sites. Sometimes those look like a check-in for a student when they get to campus and having that trusted adult, whether it be the attendance clerk or the principal or another teacher, just welcome a student to campus who's been having a hard time attending school and just being grateful they're there and setting them off for a wonderful day at school. So sometimes just that connection with a trusted adult can make all of the difference. So that is an example of a small attendance intervention that can have big impact. Of course, increased accountability, including letters, parent meetings, and referrals to the School Attendance Review Board. And then we're also exploring additional options to improve attendance, including attendance recovery efforts, independent study, and a Saturday school. A highlighted metric here to share with you, and we reported progress on this over the course of this school year. We set some goals this year at the beginning of the year to have an additional increase of 1% in district-wide attendance by June of 2025. We also continued to seek reducing chronic absenteeism by a minimum of 2% by June of 2025. Although We did not meet our target related to district-wide attendance. We are grateful for the attendance improvement that we did incur. So if we looked at our attendance in December, we were on track to make progress in this area, and I reported that to you all in January, that we were on track related to our attendance percentage. We did have an atypical January and February here in Rocklin Unified, and across, I think many of us also experienced the illness that came through, and so we are diving into data to identify if there's specific areas that we can learn from those dips in attendance in January and February. Was it in a particular grade level? Was it at particular schools? Could we have made a difference if we had changed something, whether it be cleaning or communication or alternative ideas related to attendance? So we're diving in to see what work we can do there. We have not met our target, but we are grateful for the improvement that were made at the beginning of the year, because it would have been possible for a slide backwards, and at least we're maintaining in our P2 attendance. And then the next is to decrease chronic absenteeism, and I think although it's we're not quite there, a medium progress, I want to highlight that a chronic absenteeism rate of 8.2% is a strong rate for a district of our size. That prior to in 2019, we were in the 7% arena, and we have come down significantly. We almost hit 20% of our students that were chronically absent in 2021. And so to be at 8.2% in only 4 years' time is remarkable progress. We'll continue to set lofty goals, even if we have to come and say we didn't quite hit the mark, but we want our students at school, and it's important that we articulate and communicate to our families the importance of them being there. And so we'll continue to push for improvement in chronic absenteeism. We actually still have a few weeks to go. So chronic absenteeism is a measure that can continue to be improved. Every day counts. And so we want all of our students attending school and participating in all of the wonderful activities that were talked about earlier. Come to school, participate in those. If you're not feeling well, we certainly can send you home midday.
Can you help us explain? I mean, I think most of us may know, but chronic absenteeism is described as?
Thank you for asking. Chronic absenteeism is when students miss 10% or more of the school year. So in a school year that has 180 school days, if students miss 18 days, it means that they are what is considered chronically absent. That means about 2 days a month. So it's not that many. And the adverse outcomes that can come from being absent that much, it has an impact on especially an early learner, their ability to learn to read, their ability to have all of those coping mechanisms. So it's for their social emotional well-being. So very important that we attend school. And thank you for asking for that clarification.
And trustees, why we highlighted this is all the wonderful work in math improvement, all the other areas you heard about, don't matter if you're not here. So we see this as a companion to all the other work that we're doing, that if we don't move this, then we won't see the gains that we're looking for in other areas. And just to highlight the chronic absenteeism, people would give their right arm for this number. This number is incredibly low throughout the state and even our region. And so we get asked quite a bit on, well, how did you do this? And also the attendance as well. So we need to push on this because it's really foundational to all the other gains, but these are remarkable numbers.
Within our local control and accountability plan, there are increased and improved services for what are referred to in the plan as unduplicated pupils. So our English learner students, our students with disability, our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and our foster youth students. And so the next 2 slides will share increased and improved services that are identified in this plan specifically to support these student groups. So in addition to the services offered at all schools, English learners receive designated and integrated English language development, targeted tutoring, professional development that's specifically focused on their improvement, data-based instructional approaches, parent-guardian outreach through a parent-guardian education series, and family liaison meetings. I've shared with trustees previously the outcomes of those calls and the connectedness of bringing families into our district and our wonderful city, and all of the great things we have to offer. And lastly, priority access to Tier 2 intervention programs. So these students get enrolled first in these programs, and then other spots are given after these students receive the interventions that their participation generates. So currently we have 658 enrolled English learner students, and we're looking at an investment of about $1.4 million to support these students. The next is increased and improved services for foster youth and students experiencing homelessness. In addition to services that are in the LCAP for all students, they receive, again, priority access to intervention and credit recovery programs, targeted tutoring programs, access to Chromebooks and hotspots, case management to meet their needs for breaking down barriers related to all types of in-district and social services kinds of supports, including meeting their academic, social, emotional, and mental or behavioral needs. And then the continuation of the District Foster and Homeless Youth Advisory Committee and support from myself, our District Homeless and Foster Youth Liaison. So the cumulative enrollment of these students this year is 164 homeless students, and the total projected investment for these youth is $125,000. These next two slides share the supplemental related expenses within each action. So there are a number of other funds that we blend together to make the local control and accountability plan strong. We try to put as many of our district's funds into the LCAP to be very transparent about how we spend all of our dollars aligned to our district actions. To call out a couple. So the expenditures you do see there on the right, those proposed expenditures, those are only the supplemental dollars related to those actions. When I come back with the official draft on May 28th, you will see all of the aligned actions aligned to the budget. To call out a couple, our investment above the base for academic improvements in the area of math is $770,000. Another to call out is our elementary counseling program, and continuing that program is an investment of about $800,000. Continuing to meet our students' Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention needs is about $325,000. Our partnership with Wellness Together for secondary school-based mental health is just about $300,000. And then within the area of Goal 3, everything that makes Rocklin Unified great. We do have our two largest expense areas there are meeting the needs of our English learner students, about $1.4 million, ensuring that all of our socioeconomically disadvantaged students can access transportation free of charge. That is $1.1 million. And then our site interventions. So these are funds that are provided to school sites to meet the intervention needs on their campus, as well as providing each of our elementary schools an additional, next year, an additional 6-hour instructional aid above what this was an outcome of the work that has been ongoing in our intervention plan over the course of the last 4 years. So one 6-hour instructional aid is included in that, and that's $815,000.
How is that divided up per site?
It is based on a per pupil amount.
Okay.
So there's a dollar per pupil, a dollar amount per pupil, and then based on the number of students they have. And then above that, there is a 6-hour instructional aid for all of our elementary campuses to focus on intervention supports in their walk to learn model, and our largest 3 elementary sites also receive an additional 3-hour instructional aid.
Thank you.
Could we jump back really quick to slide 14, please? On goal 1 for math, I noticed targeted tutoring looks at about $15,000. That seems quite low.
So these are only funds invested with supplemental dollars. We also have funds invested in with our expanded learning opportunity program funding. There's some specialized categorical funding that we receive from the state of California that enhances that number.
Oh, great. Okay, so the call out on slide 12 and 13 for tutoring for our foster youth, homelessness, our English learners, that's not all achieved just by this one line. That's achieved in many other ways. This is just the dollars from this that you're allocating. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then on goal 2, on that same slide 14, are any of these new programs, or are these all programs we've already done and been in existence on our campus?
These are all programs that we have already done and have been in existence on our campus,
Okay, great. Thank you.
with the exception of exploring new opportunities for substance prevention.
Yes, but you shared that with me before. Thank you so much. Thanks for clarifying.
With the ELOP, which you mentioned, I think during goal 3, now that that's been in place, we're kind of wrapping up this school year, will we kind of start to see some metrics on kind of how the students who are participating in that program are doing? How will you be kind of assessing that in terms of these specific goals, but also just their overall success?
Thank you for asking that. I think one area that we could do is to, we are actually looking at how our students in our Expanded Learning Opportunity program are doing. This is a program that was added by the state of California 2 years ago, where students have the opportunity to stay for an additional 2.5 hours every school day, and 30 intersession days. So over the summer, we also have them here on February break. When teachers are participating in professional development, these students come to school and participate. So as this year wraps up, we're looking to track implementation data. However, there's many different variables that go into student participation in that program because it is parent choice driven. And so one of the areas we're looking at next year is tracking attendance in a different way. We capture how many students are there, but not to the point where we could say, these students who have attended 90 to 100% of the time are making these academic changes. These students who are attending. So one of the things that we are looking at as we evaluate that program is identifying what are some different ways we should be tracking students' participation in the program so that we can better identify the impact that that program is making. I think it'll also be important as we look at the impact of that program to recognize that the students participating after school are also getting a wealth of services during the school day. And so it makes it a little bit tricky to parcel out, are they having improvement because they participated after school, or are they having improvement because they're in a 4-to-1 intervention group 4 days a week for 40 minutes during the school day? However, I do think there are still areas that we can show improvement. And in our May 28th presentation, I do plan to share with trustees at least participation in that program because it is a heavily utilized program in the district, a very exciting new program for students to participate in. And it also gives us the opportunity to tap into other areas we're very interested in, like our targeted tutoring program that can be embedded in that time, or attendance recovery next year could be embedded in that time. So a lot of good opportunities because that program exists. So I want to start evaluating it differently and sharing it more broadly.
Through our EduClimber data system that the board has invested in, we're looking at opportunities to potentially, and if you want to say tag students, but identify, as we look at other metrics, did they participate? We may not be able to make a correlation, but we can at least, have that information as well.
Okay, and next steps, we will continue our implementation of current actions and monitoring outcome data to determine impact, work with our educational partners to refine our draft actions and metrics for next year, finalize supplemental expenditures in alignment with our actions, and on May 28th, hold the public hearing on the final draft LCAP, the annual update, the local indicators, and the budget overview for parents, and lastly, bring for approval on June 18th, 2025.
So
question. Thank you for this. Thank you for the whole Appendix 1 data, super appreciate. Looking at math specifically, when would we have the year 2 outcomes from spring 2025? When would that data be updated?
On June 18th, we will have, so some of that data is in there that was for the MAP assessment that was given in just in April. And then all of our CASP data, so that's state testing assessment data, we typically don't get that back from the state in final form until August or September. And so we don't always have final data, which is why that is a lagging metric, why you have what's called year 1 data, but it's a whole year outdated. So some of the other data that you all have been looking at to track math improvement, Director Davidson will be here on June 18th to provide a math improvement update. She'll be able to share progress on grade data for integrated courses, as has been shared previously. And if we have any preliminary data at that point, we won't hold it back. But typically, we don't get that data until August or September.
Okay, yeah, just taking a look at the data, the metrics, I know we want to have roughly a 2% increase. You're looking at the 2024 data wasn't great. If we're waiting until August to get 25 data, how much time does it give you to interact, change course, make adjustments? I guess.
Great question. We do have our measures of academic progress assessment, which is that MAP assessment. That has a high correlation to how students will perform on the CASP. And we did just get those results back, and we have seen that we did make a 2% growth from spring of 2024 to spring of 2025. And so we do anticipate that we will make a jump in our CASP assessment this year. If not, we do have some adjustments to Goal 1 that we already have planned to continue sustaining and embedding, but at that time, we wouldn't just work that plan all school year. If we've slid backwards, we would reevaluate and change course if we need to, despite what has been written into a plan here in June.
No, and thank you. You're handicapped by the state and the metrics they have. You want to try to change course if you can. So great to hear it. Hopefully the MAP stuff all rolls through and we can see it and see the benefits.
We do actually start receiving preliminary data within, about a month of when students take the assessment. We get 97% of results are in, 98% of results are in. So we do start getting some good measures of how it is that we're doing and are we tracking how we expect it to be doing. It's just not publicly official data until every last result is in.
And that's, again, why the MAP piece is, again, an investment of the district so that we aren't waiting. So as the professional learning committee comes in, they'll be looking at this data, for example. They're convening later this month to look at what are other areas we need. And so we are in a kind of continual data review cycle and working to plan. And the CASP is kind of that validation of where were we not, as we work through that. So it is there's a continual, because again, the board's investment in EduClimber, the MAP assessments, other things, we have a continual data cycle of review that we're in to adjust versus we're waiting for the one, state measure to land. And then in districts that do that, then they're starting in maybe October to really get going, and you've missed a quarter of the year. So we really have been proud that we've been really forward-thinking and continually reviewing and adjusting. So we have multiple data cycles that we review, validate, adjust, and CASP is just one of those measures.
I sincerely love that we put a goal out there, that we're tracking towards, that we're making improvement. I think it's one of the many, great reasons why Rocklin is a great district, and we have great teachers and great programs. And I just want to show that data and highlight it and say that we are doing really, really well here, and that's why you should move here and send your kids here.
Agreed.
Any additional questions or comments? Director Anderson, thank you so much. That was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now on to item 10.2. Jennifer Stahl Stahlheber, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Operations, to present a revision of Board Policy 3100 on the budget.
Good evening, President Price, Trustee, Superintendent Stock. So in a previous board meeting, we discussed possibly looking at a fiscal stabilization agreement, which would reside within our Board Policy 3100. And so as we looked at that, we also looked at the most current CSBA version of that board policy, and we also provided some updates based on that latest version. And so I'm going to go into some of the reasons we are looking at a fiscal stabilization account. And so here's some history related to how education is funded. So if you recall, Prop 13 limited our ability to apply property taxes to collect revenues for school districts. It's now capped, and the increases are capped annually, and all the funds go to the state, and we are now funded through the mechanism of local control funding formula. We also have Proposition 98, which was passed in 1988, which established a minimum funding level for K-14. And in many years, it's actually almost been a ceiling. Like, they don't really fund us over that. They created that, and that's what we receive. And so even when the state is doing really well, we don't really see additional funds come through to the school district. They calculate that Prop 98, and that's what we receive, even though it's supposed to be a minimum funding level. We also know that in times of severe fiscal crisis, that the state can now suspend Prop 98 and not fully fund it. And we have seen them do that. In 2020, they suspended Prop 98, and we received a zero COLA and no additional funds. We also have some inherent volatility just in how the state funds its general fund. And so we're very reliant on personal income tax and capital gains. And so when there are fluctuations in the stock market, in IPOs, our highest earners in the state are responsible for a very large portion of the funds that come in. And so when those things occur, it can result in fiscal distress for the state budget, which then translates to fewer funds coming through to schools. And we saw that when taxes were delayed due to some weather, some extreme weather in 22-23, and in the 23-24 budget, we were what the state considered over-allocated, and we saw some extreme cuts come into the current year budget. Fortunately, we're on track this year, but we also know the fires that occurred recently are delaying some receipts, and LA is a very large portion of the state's tax receipts, are about 22% overall for the entire state. And so we don't know what that impact will be. And so these are some of the reasons why we might consider having a fiscal stabilization account. So they're often referred to as a reserve for economic uncertainty or a rainy day fund. We currently have one that's required by the state that when we bring you a budget, we always have our REU in it. We also have the county that reviews our budget at each period, and one of their checks for AB 1200 is they're required to make sure we have that reserve for economic uncertainty. We have that, and we have the ability to pay our bills in the current plus 2 years. So it's used to, cushion any impact that comes in that we aren't expecting. Something uncertain comes in, it's supposed to give us ability to be flexible and to make decisions without being knee-jerk and having drastic cuts.
Just curious on that. So, not this district, assuming you're a district and you're doing everything you can, and something bad happens, and you dip into that 3%, what are the next ballpark steps that PCOE would take?
That's a really good question. So if you are not able to meet your required reserve requirement, they would call you negative. They would certify you as a negative in certification. If you could meet your 3, but in the 2 out years you showed you couldn't, you would be qualified. So qualified districts required to do a 3rd interim report, which is, a lot of work. It would come right on the heels of 2nd interim. We would do a 3rd interim, and then we'd be going straight into budget adoption. If you're negative, you are assigned a fiscal advisor. The board is relieved of their duties, and the superintendent is relieved of his. And so it's very serious to go negative in the state of California. And if you are so impacted that it requires a state loan, it typically takes anywhere between 20 and 25 years to repay that loan. So it's always good to be aware of our reserve balance and to monitor it, and which is
But
why.
once you tap into it, PCOE shows up and they're running the show.
Well, you get a fiscal advisor. It could be someone from the county, it could be someone from another district, it could be someone from FCMAP, but you would be assigned.
And when they
if you
say
were
take
negative.
over, that doesn't mean they get to approve curriculum. It means they
No,
get
they
to
only
approve
have
any
stay and
financial
rescind
matters.
power over
Right.
financial decisions.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
But if you were to buy curriculum, that's a financial decision.
yes,
So-
correct. Yeah. So that's one of the many benefits of having the additional fiscal stabilization account, is that you have the ability to have some additional funds in the event of a financial emergency. So you have some more flexibility to respond to unexpected needs, potentially reduce the need for borrowing. So some districts during tight times, when cash, because of how we receive our apportionments, they're staggered throughout the year for different amounts. You might get cash strapped, and districts will receive a temporary revenue anticipation note from their county office, which is referred to as a trans. And so having this additional reserve might keep you from having to get that. Depending on the county, you may be paying some interest on that trans. I've been in a county that did not require, they just took the amount. I've been in counties that did have some interest. So that would be a good thing to avoid. It also enhances our financial stability and our creditworthiness. So if we, like we have our bonds that are from 2002 that we pay on, and every year we're reassessed our creditworthiness and we get a rating. We've maintained that rating, but if for some reason we were in fiscal distress, our reserves went low, we could see our rating go down. Having a fiscal stabilization account could also increase it if that were something that were to come to light during a review by one of our credit rating agencies.
Can I ask, is a fiscal stabilization account a common thing for districts to do?
I don't believe they are. I did look out at some. I've been in a district that had one, and of the ones I sampled, about 20% of them had it. So. I think they do it in each, when I spoke to that CBO, they do it through just a commitment at every board meeting instead of making it part of their board policy. So, which is another option, right? It would just become a commitment in, like how we bring the commitments to you already. So there are ways to do this beside using a board policy. The sample I looked at, they were in the board policy, that 20%. So it could be greater that people are just using the committing it, which is still board action, but you're taking it at every budget cycle. So when we think about possible funding levels, we already know what 3% is for our district. At second interim, it was $5.521 million. If we wanted to look at 4%, it would be $7.361. We have 5% would be $9.202, and 6% would be $11.042 million. And so districts have a variety. I've seen, when I was looking at my sample, I saw some that just doubled the state required reserve. I saw some that were 5% additional. I saw one that said 2 months worth of expenditures, which I find really hard to believe because that would be almost 17%, of your total expenditure budget. So
Can I
don't know
ask?
that they're adhering to that, but it was in their board policy.
So the 3% that's required, what would that do for our district? If we said, okay, all the money is gone, all we have is this 3%, how far would that take us?
Oh, that's not even a payroll. 17% is 3 months of payroll.
Wow.
So I thought I'd put together an example if we said it, and I just picked a mid-range. This is no way a recommendation, but it was just what would that look like compared to what I brought at second interim. And so you would see that unassigned reserve for economic uncertainty decreased by 5%. It went down to 8.15. And it shows a line on our components of ending fund balance of $9.202 million. And so that's just one example. The board could say, we only want to put 1%, or we want 6%. It's really, and the board could use just commitments at each budget cycle as well to do this.
Since this is an info item, we can just ask a lot of questions. What do you see as the advantage of using just a committed line versus a policy? Or disadvantage, pros and cons? What are your thoughts?
They both require board action. If it's in your policy, in the event of an emergency, the designee, so say you have a catastrophic weather event and we have a roof ripped off and we know it's gonna be millions, it's gonna take up our, more than just what we have in fund balance, that your designee could declare the emergency, but at that next board meeting, it would come to the board and the board would approve that. It would also put into our policy a plan to restore that amount that was used. So in the sample, I used 4 years because I found a sample from another school district, and they gave themselves 4 years to rebuild that reserve in the event that they needed to use it. When I worked in a district that had that additional reserve, when I ran MYPs and we would have discussions with the board on expenditures or authorization for labor agreements, they really, on that 3rd year was when they wanted to see, are we still there? Didn't mean that sometimes we didn't dip a little below in the 3rd year, but they also know that 3rd year we know is gonna change. We never come in right where we say in this current year when we're projecting out a couple of years. But we always stayed really close. And when I first got there, I was kind of like, it was new to me, and I was like, oh man, I have this extra thing to do, and I was unsure about it. But it ended up giving me a lot of confidence in knowing that we had this extra little bucket moving forward when things did get tight, or when we heard unexpected news from the state. So I think, it's probably, each person will have a different opinion.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent Stock, do you have an opinion, committed line versus a board policy?
I mean, all of these are, the board at any point could take action to change the policy, change the decision. What it does do is it does give direction in a sense to staff of saying, as you prepare the budget, make sure this additional amount is committed, and we expect to see it reflected in there. So it does provide that. The other piece related to like credit worthiness and ratings is when it's in policy, they see that as a more serious step than just committing it at each budget cycle because it's an adopted policy. And so those are some of the, the views related to that. The other piece around the 4-year piece is we're required, as you all well know, 3-year adopted budgets. By a 4th year, it gives us a little bit more lead time to look at how we might accomplish that versus it having to be in that 3 years. So we just thought that extra year, if the board was looking at it, gave us just more runway time to look at doing that. Because if that were to come into play, we would want to restore services, restore things, and also repay this. We wouldn't want to repay this and not restore services that we had just been severely cut. So our hope is in a certain amount of cycle, the economy would turn around enough that we could restore this while we restore services. So that was the extra runway time on that we had looked at.
Thank you.
So this slide is addressing how we would access those funds. So as we said, it would be established by the board or designee, and then we would bring that back to the board at the next board meeting. All this is done in public, just like how we have that reserve for economic uncertainty listed as 3% at every budget cycle. This would as well be listed in our standardized account code structure report that we bring to you, which is required to be submitted to the county at each budget cycle. A budget revision would also be approved by the board.
Can I interrupt you for just 1 second? Sorry. Does anybody have any concerns about the specific urgent event? Like, what if there wasn't agreeance on that? Just throwing it out there. Anybody concerned about that? Maybe it's just... The board would have approval, but like, what if someone's like, this is urgent, right? And someone else says, this isn't urgent, or
Actually, I think we're just notified at the next board meeting. I don't think it says that we give approval.
I think the policy does say that we would be notified and requested to approve the budget revision that executes the financial piece.
And it's not,
or your
that's
designee.
not
Or
the
designee.
So
only
Yeah.
if
way
you
we could
struck
access
that
it.
there was no designee, it would have to wait for a board meeting.
I'm
I
not
think that
super
language
worried
is
about it. I
in
was
there.
just curious if anybody had any other thoughts. I don't know another way to word it, but just throwing it out there. to see
Currently,
if
it
anyone
says
had any other
designee
thoughts.
that the board gives could access those funds and then notify the board at the next meeting.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and then, and if that were stricken, I mean, the operational piece was as if that were stricken, then the board would be requested to convene at a special meeting to make the approval. So I'm just saying that would be the operational piece. It just allows for the district to function and without the need for that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the urgent, I think, related to the designee that I found in sample language was related to extreme weather events. Okay. Right, like you have a fire.
That's what he was saying.
and-
He was saying
yeah.
like earthquake,
Oh, yeah.
extreme weather event.
Yeah,
That's never going to happen again.
and then just additional questions, and that could be, and then next steps, you can give us direction. Do you want to see it come back? Do you want another iteration? And whatever is the board's pleasure.
Just asking just a general question, does COLA play any factor into this?
We don't have anything connected to COLA in it currently, and I haven't seen sample language. Doesn't mean that we couldn't create.
No, I just want to make sure we're not handicapped by that at some point, so that's very good.
Is there an amount individuals are leaning towards? Because I noticed, I think in the language, it just says X%, but then slide 6, I was hoping you would tell us, right? No, I noticed slide 6 gives an example I'm looking at, if I'm reading this correctly, 5% what it would look like, and that would be a 5% on top of the 3% minimum that's required of us. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in slide 5, it gives 4, 5, and 6%, those dollar amounts.
On slide
Well,
5.
I really like this because I think it's good, strong financial stewardship. I think it's a good time to do this. I think, California has just historically been so unstable. Even though the sky's the limit, right? Like 3 months payroll seems so small, but 17% seems so big. I mean, even for me, matching the 3 would be a great step. I'd feel comfortable with the 4%. I'm not looking, for a huge amount, but I do think that this is a really good move to protect us against unexpected events.
I know. I guess I was kind of thinking, like, would we just do another 3 and double it? Especially just given, then we look at unassigned funds at 15 million, and that's not taking into consideration, any of those, facilities discussions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm torn because I think it's really important that we do this. I do, I think it's important. I also want to make sure, though, that, the many needs that our district has, right, that's over our annual budget and the ability to pay for all those needs, I want to make sure those aren't unnecessarily being delayed too long because we have this money sitting and being reserved. Yeah. And so it's that, right, that fiscal responsibility of, we've all lived on this board, right? Situations where it wasn't what we expected, right? And thankfully, I think we were able to really ride through those well because we did have some reserves. I like the matching of the 3. I think a 3 to a 5 is what I was thinking I'd be comfortable with. I think after that, I get concerned because our previous conversation, we have facility needs and facility repairs, and I want to make as many of those as possible and not leave dollars sitting.
Including, I know all 5 of us have concerns about what our safety reports are going to come back at.
Mm-hmm.
And, we want to anticipate those as well.
Yeah. Now, just clarifying, I know the urgent need, I read and understood that. Say there was an additional project need, a new need came up, could this still be accessed without a weather-related event or urgent event? Could it be accessed for any reason as long as there's a 5-0 vote or a majority vote?
Well, you can always change the board policy. You can also take board action to declare an event that you've defined as urgent.
Okay,
That was,
urgent.
so we could declare an event that we define as urgent. I don't want to get us in a situation where we're just changing policy every couple
Yeah, I
months.
agree.
I don't think that's healthy. And actually, I don't think we would do this every couple months, but even every year, I wouldn't want to change policy. And so are there any, as I read through it, there wasn't really specifications of what qualifies an urgent event. It's up to the board to determine or their designee. Is that correct? And when we say board, is that board majority?
I mean, yeah, I mean, all these, unless you'd say something else, it's always a majority of the board that takes action. The other type of event that's more likely is that we get a really horrible budget out of the state. And we say, you know, in order to avoid massive layoffs in the next year, we're going to say that we're in a space of an emergency, and we're going to authorize that we take this amount out of there. So the most likely scenario is a very negative budget. Or say, for example, Prop 30, which is due to expire, which has funds, and say we're waiting to see how the voters act on a renewal of that, hypothetical, and they didn't. And so that state says, we're doing mid-year budget cuts. That we would consider an emergency, and we would make a request to the board to dip into the funds. So more likely, it's as Jennifer presented on the second slide, it's the extreme up and downs of the California economy in school funding that we might make a request to mitigate immediate drastic reductions in our budget to see if we can do some work around that to see if the economy can recover, and then we would come back with a restoration plan. So that's the most likely scenario, and then it would just be a simple board majority that would say, yes, move forward.
Okay.
So is that addressed in, you guys see the paragraph on stabilization arrangement? Do we feel like this sentence addresses what you're talking about? I mean, it mentions revenue shortfalls, but let me read the whole sentence. So it's the third sentence in. A financial stabilization account is established for the purpose of providing funds due to an emergency situation, unexpected expenditures, or revenue shortfalls, or for an urgent event that affects the safety of the employees and student population. I think so. Do we want to wordsmith that differently? I mean, we definitely have time still because we're voting on this on the 28th, right?
If you direct us to bring it back.
Oh, yes, okay. But is there anybody that's got anything? I feel comfortable with that sentence. Does anybody want to add or edit that at all?
I feel
Budget
comfortable with the
revision?
sentence. I have another question,
Yeah, go ahead.
but
Yeah, that's fine, if everyone's good.
Is that okay? Okay, the only other thought I had is, how does this play with districts that have, deficit spending in their model? The little bit of research I was able to do looking into this, it looked like it was typically districts that don't have a deficit spending, but I could be inaccurate in that if there's other districts that have it. And so I think that's the one area I'm trying to reconcile, and I understand why districts have to show a deficit spending. I understand it's a timing of when the funds hit for the most part. But that's the other piece is that a concern? Is this money set aside there so it does counteract it in a way? I'm trying to rationalize if we have a model where, even if it's for good reason, but we continue to see that deficit on our 3-year, I'm trying to rationalize, does this help counteract that, or is this making that worse by setting aside those dollars and usable?
Like, will we see more of those deficit
Which
years?
we don't want. I don't want, yeah.
With this.
What are your thoughts on that? Good question.
Well, my limited experience, we always stayed around, and the district I was in had a 3+5. And so we always stayed right around that 8. And we had years when we had a slight deficit, but it never caused us to not do something we wanted to do. What it did do, though, is make us really evaluate, are we right-sizing when we need to? Are we addressing when we have any dips in enrollment? Are we really evaluating our programs and our metrics for student achievement? But I never had an experience where we didn't do something. And that was coming out of the Great Recession, and so the fact that they even were able to maintain that during the Great Recession, to me, was pretty remarkable. I came in after they had already kind of come out of that, but they had had that prior to.
And I've talked to some superintendents in the interim, just of like, how does this, when you look long-term at this, and there's a few pieces. One is, if you were to consider this, this is the perfect time, because the money's sitting in the reserve and you're literally just moving it from one line to another. So you aren't making a reduction in anything, you're not doing something, in essence, that was in our proposed budget development model to achieve this. And so if we were coming out of, we had just made reductions and things, it would be very hard to do this. And so this is the, like, if you will, almost perfect time to consider it and not have it counteract. The other piece that when I've talked to superintendents, they said is, is you have the 3-year budget, and as Jennifer said, the third year is so, out there as far as, unpredictable what could occur, that it does allow the board, does allow the district to absorb a little bit higher degree of uncertainty and potentially even a little bit larger deficit in a third year, and take time to do it, because you have this extra reserve sitting here, versus when we've been in this district at a 3% reserve, and we have had very hard budget times or made other decisions that impacted us. When we hit that bump in the road, we were triggering reductions right away. So this I think they said gives the board, the district, the ability to have more flexibility, more, I guess I don't want to say risk, but tolerate a little bit more in their budget, because they have this extra set aside, versus when you have very little, you have very low tolerance. And so that's the really advantage they saw, was it didn't require immediate drastic actions, and it also allowed the board to take action on doing some things it wanted, knowing it had extra space to work through that.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I will say I'm still not a fan of any deficit spending models, planned deficit spending. I still want to make sure we're continually watching that and addressing that. But I do appreciate the perspective that, an additional 3% or 5%, whatever we agree upon, if that's the interest of everybody else on the board. I do appreciate the forward thinking that it's a way to really be able to protect our district, our staff, the many important positions we have, that as you have the potential of economic uncertainty down the road, it sets us up well to be able to protect those that we have here. So I do support it. I do support the notion of it. I do still just ask that we continue to watch a deficit spending model, that's not a pattern of behavior. I understand that has to happen sometimes, but that we still continue to work to address that as well.
And I think a policy like this, an action like this, would actually help people feel that we have strong fiscal discipline in doing that. And again, it allows us to look at how we would react. So I think this also would again, just give the board more opportunities in how it looks at things and how it takes an overall look, versus we're such a short minimal reserve. Any deficit spending is very, very problematic, versus we need to address, we have space and time to do that.
Jennifer, can I ask, would you like tonight for us, if we are moving forward with this and asking for it to come back on the 28th, would you like us to put a number where that X is tonight?
Yes, please.
It would also help with transparency as we post this for consideration. The public knows what we're considering as well.
So, 2 questions or one. We did the budget last time. I think we walked through it. Help remind me, ballpark, the money that we get from the federal government is about 2%. And then, again, not looking for it to ever go away, but I know our state and some other elected people don't like each other too much. So I think at least you just want to hedge your bet with at least 2%, just from my own reference talking. The other one, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, is there an opportunity, since it's set aside, to utilize either a money market or a short-term bond so we can actually gain revenue? Somewhere?
Yes, there is.
I'll trust.
And I have been in a
trust.
district where we put funds in money markets, and we staggered it so they were maturing, so that it wasn't tied up and it was more liquid and fluid.
I just don't want to put it in an envelope, right?
It's something we could look at, yeah. And we have been getting great returns through the pooled county treasury fund. We've been receiving interest, between 3 and 4%. I think the last time it came in, it was like 3.97 or 3.87, which are, really good interest rates right now.
Yeah.
But we could find something higher in a money
So,
market.
yeah, I don't know if we're all in agreement or talking, but I think having something on the side that covers the potential 2% loss for the Fed, and then some more, whether that be 4 or 5, I'm talking percents, I think that's a good thing to just have in our back pocket so that we avoid what I never want to see is pink slips in February and the conversations that go along with those. Hopefully we can buy time and we can make decisions, not have to react like we did back in other times prior.
So I'm just going to throw out, I would feel really good with a 3%. We're matching what is already required. This is kind of new to us. It may even be a baby step for a few years, and we see how it goes and how comfortable we feel with that. Does anybody else want to?
I'm comfortable with the 3%.
Yeah, I would like to discuss that. 3%.
So what, trustees, given your guidance, we'll insert a 3 number. It isn't final till you vote, but that way the public can see, what we're thinking, what we're considering. We heard that the language was acceptable. We'll remove the X, put a 3, and it will, but you want it to come back as an action item?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. I know we had a lot of questions on that, and we are so grateful you've had some experience with that. That's huge for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no public comment, are there any trustees that would like to put an item up to discuss for consideration on the pending agenda?
So I do have something, I don't know that it's necessarily an agenda item, or at least not necessarily in the near future, but it kind of talk this through with you guys. So started out thinking about cell phone usage with our younger students, K through 8 level. There's some concern about the impact on young people with cell phone access at an early age, being able to manage that, issues with sleep and access, and depression, impacts on mental health. Was able, to talk a little bit with one of you about that and just some ideas and thoughts. There are some kind of well-formed kind of initiatives that exist out there. Since kind of starting that thought, have actually engaged with some people in the community about this. As students start to get phones younger and younger, there's kind of this then pressure from kids, to parents, well, I need a phone too, in 4th grade, and, kind of navigating that. And it turns out that this is something that Sierra Elementary parents have already kind of expressed some concern and wanting some guidance and wanting to talk it through with other parents. And they put together a book club to talk about Anxious Generation, the book. And their PTC has put out some information in a flyer about just the benefits of delaying cell phone use in adolescence. And then some Breen parents learned of that, and they also are interested in doing something like that on their site. So thinking, okay, well then, if we're seeing a lot of community interest in this, we as a district might want to look at coming up with some district-wide initiatives or education on this topic, which then kind of segued into, this AB 3216, Phone Free Schools Act, that requires districts to put some board policy in place by July of next year. A lot of schools, even some local schools have already done this as a district. Working in high schools, I see that even at the high school level, there's a lot of concern with phone usage and being disconnected and just negative issues that come, from that. And so wanting to look at some responsible use. Some districts have looked at challenges for high school students to limit use. They've looked at polling the community, students, parents. So kind of where I'm getting with this is, we're going to have to look at that. And I think we're seeing some interest, across the board, elementary, secondary. So I want to kind of talk about taking a collaborative approach, getting some proactive information, because something like this, it's going to take some time to develop, and then once it is developed and approved, school sites are going to have to work with their staff, figure out how to make it happen. So wondering, do a couple of us want to work with the district staff on some of that, getting some information? Do we want, is there an interest in doing this and finding a way to kind of collaborate, see, what parents are concerned about, see what they would like support with, find out from students, like how is this impacting them? What's even realistic? Because I think, I see, you can put policies in place and you want it to be something that everyone understands and buys into, to some degree. And we're on the same page with the community. So just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know, what anyone thinks about it.
Just, I guess, speaking out loud or thinking out loud, our current cell phone policy, the one we have within the high schools, that, it's a site, so each school is either pro or con. I guess without routing anybody, but does everybody have it, or is there,
Both Rocklin and Whitney have it. Does Victory? Yeah.
And then Granite Oaks and Springview, do we have a similar policy? 50-50? Okay. Okay. I'm just curious.
I think it's even a problem. I think it's even a
variability.
problem at elementary level, and I am 1,000% in agreement. I see it all the time. It's horrible what happens with the cell phones at school. They sneak them around all the time. And I would love to see sample policy if other districts have already worked on policies. That would be great. What do you think?
Well, Tracy, we can definitely bring back to you in the fall. I would request September if possible. If that doesn't meet your interest, tell me and we'll make it sooner. But just to say, here's the law requirement, so you know that we do have to have some policy action next year. Here's what we currently have in place, just so you're kind of starting with what is it now, what is a policy have to say. We can also share with you, here's some other samples of how other places have handled this, just to give a baseline. And then that may give an opportunity for you all to give direction to us on, as we look at this, we'd like you to get input from these types of groups, and we'd like you to consider these types of things. And that would then allow us to have direction from you on how to proceed. And then that way, when we come back with things, we've met the target you've set, and then we can work through next year to meet what you like, and then bring you action pieces in order to be ready to go. And that can be a range of things that Trustee Sutherland said as far as input and engagement, but you all would be able to, give us that direction.
So, and I guess, she's not here, but just building off, I know we've got some great groups with the LCAP and some parent groups. I don't want to add more on, but is there a way to get that voice of the parents conversation going there without, I just don't want to have another email request survey created, right? I'm trying to utilize what we may
already
have.
One thing that you all could consider is, again, this is just off the top of the head, is, we annually say, parents, these are district committees we're having this year that we are going to be forming, and we'd like you to volunteer for them. If the board felt this strongly about it, you could have a committee on this, but that also is a very big commitment that you would be making. And so one option is that we could insert this into our LCAP process, so we have parents come in. And so therefore we could say to parents, we're going to be, in addition to this, we're going to also be engaging you related to this. The other options are, again, this is what we would kind of present to you in the fall, is that's fine, but we'd also like to see, should we do a couple, like, I don't want to say town halls, but like focus opportunities to come in and have dialogue. You could direct us on, hey, we want you to use the LCAP. We may want additional pieces. You would tell us what that is, but it may be helpful for us to start with, what do we have? What could that look like? And again, we'll take whatever direction you want.
I think we could put it into the LCAP, but the LCAP is already so dense. And I think people, like the fact that this is already kind of coming about, like grassroots on these sites, I feel like there is a huge interest. Like every parent you ask has an opinion on it one way or another. I think it would be really cool to show some responsiveness to this issue as a standalone, even, and I think at all age levels, and talking even to high school principals about the facilities, this came up as just like, oh, well, yeah, I know this isn't really facilities, or maybe it could be, because maybe there's something, some kind of item we could buy to help, but, I think the sites have their own policies, but like, to be blunt, it's not working. I think there's a lot of issues, on the teacher end, on, parents managing, on students knowing how to manage. And I just think, it's a topic that I think we would have no shortage of
And I think,
input and engagement.
and building off of that, just from a feedback standpoint, we're looking at obviously talking to, I guess it's parents, teachers, and kids, right? That's that kind of figuring out. So I'm sure that everyone, like you said, everyone has a pro and a con and a good or a bad, right?
And we can draw even on things, like, for example, all of our elementaries have a uniform way they approach this. What we could do is, staff can go back and do some thinking. When we did our dress code piece, we did a very inclusive process to come up with that. And we even worked with our student trustees and things. So there may be some ways to think about what did we learn from that, or there are pieces we could pull in as well to help us do that and engage. And like when we know that, sometimes the grassroots is great. I think Rocklin High School staff did a staff book study on that book as well. And I think this is an issue that parents face, all the time. And I think it's a balance of what's our policy at school, and then how do we work with parents to give them information, resources, because they play a vital role in this as well with us.
What if you had two trustees, form a committee and to bring something back as an info item possibly? Because, I will say, I appreciate how this piece of legislation was crafted, because it gives a lot of local control. It gives a lot of ability. And I've appreciated, too, that we've really allowed that at our campuses, that each campus, maybe might have a little bit of a different culture, and so they might have different suggestions. And I do appreciate that, I think they call it the Phone-Free School Act, but that they recognize a special note in there. Parents and educators must allow students to use their phones in the case of an emergency or in response to a perceived threat of danger. And I think that's a critical component to include in that, because I know some of the parents that have talked about it, they're like, I think we all would agree. We don't want our kids sitting on their phones all day on social media. But we recognize there might be some unique situations, a divorced family situation, a dual working parent home situation. They're needing to communicate with their child for a variety of reasons at breaks. And so I would hope that we can come up with something that's inclusive of some of those concerns that I've heard as well. And I think we can do that. I really do think we can. But I've again appreciated that from how I understood it, it's quite open-ended, and it just says, we just ask that you address this. And I really think the heart behind it is to actually provide an opportunity for education and awareness. And so I'd be open to educational ideas, including something in Parent University. We've done that already before on safe online usage. I took that class with my husband, and I was scared to death about all of the apps out there, and we went home and had a great family conversation about it. Probably time to do a refresher. But I just say, I think I would love to see us get creative and not have this be we're banning cell phones altogether, but we're addressing what the real concern is that I'm hearing is that, we want our students to engage outside of this electronic world on their phone. But how do we still meet the needs of some of those concerns of parents that really want their child to have this access at certain points throughout the day? Yeah, so I'd be open to entertaining, if there was a policy brought back as an info item, or even a combo of ideas of, here's maybe a class or an educational campaign, or I know there's conversation of the wait until you're 8. I'm not saying I fully support that campaign.
Grade 8.
Oh, grade 8, yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. But I'm not saying I fully support that, in totality, but I wonder if there's something along those lines where maybe our policy is quite open, that we're going to take an educational approach. That's just something I'm leaning towards personally.
I hear a future board item, and so, so would, and again, I just want to check in what would get us in the space where we've agendized, we're having the conversation. Would you like us then to come back to you in September with a, here's the legislative requirements, here's what we currently have in, here's options we see other districts engage in. We've heard around education, we've heard around use, restriction on use, education, engaging the community, and then just we can share that and then give you react to it where we're on the mark or not, and then we can go forward more. Or I also heard a potential option around a subcommittee to work with staff to develop that item for the board. What just looking for a little direction on how you'd like us to proceed.
Has CSBA put out their proposed policy on the item yet?
We could check and see. I don't know off the top of our head, but that would definitely be something.
I liked our approach with AI, that we really waited until some of the organizations that really are knowledgeable of this, they kind of gave some direction. Not that we have to do that, but I think it's something that we can take into consideration. So, I mean, I'm open to it. I'm open to if two of you want to bring something back. For me, I would just say I would love to see it be more on the educational and maybe limiting access times throughout the day, not so much a cell phone ban on campus. That's just where I'm at currently at the moment.
Right, and again, I think that would be the opportunity for a agendized item to have this discussion. Is we're in the pending agenda item.
I like the idea of not needing a subcommittee to come up with the agenda item, and then see where it goes from there based on the identified options that seem like they make sense.
Okay.
I like the education piece, but I also don't want it to be a passive. I want it to be collaborative, and I want to make sure that parents and students who have an opinion and teachers have a forum for that too, because I think that's where we're really going to make sure that we have it right for our community.
And that would
And I
be the
think there's a
exact
right way
guidance.
to get there.
Yeah.
So I think, Superintendent Stock, if you can bring this back, all of that.
Yeah,
on
we'll
September,
bring that
that'd be
back,
awesome.
and we'll target that in September, and then we'll also check it if CSBA does have a sample policy out. We'll circulate that to you in a memorandum as soon as we have that.
Okay, there is a request to place all of that on the agenda in September, first by Trustee Sutherland. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Hupp. And that is all we need. The meeting is adjourned.
Wait, to close session.
To closed.
Sorry, no.